Hello again. It is a pleasure to be back and thank you for joining me again. I am Dr. J. Lorraine and this is Get Your Mind Right. And today we're going to talk about the deeds of the Nicolaitans. We're going to start off in Revelation. So, if you don't have pen and pencil, go on and take this time and get you something to write with. You might want to take notes because this is a life changer. It changes things for me. Let me just put it like that. Any broadcast that I do from this point on will be in the interest of preparing us to receive the bridegroom. Because the bridegroom cometh and we want to be ready. So it doesn't matter if you are pre-tribulation, mid-tribulation, or post-tribulation. You still have to be ready. That's what I've been focusing on. That's why you haven't seen me in a while. I realize that the time is upon us. And there are certain types and foreshadows that tell us when he's coming. Now, there's a term that says no one knows the day or the hour. You know the season. You know the time. And he gave Daniel the time and he gave him the numbers. And God is not late on his date. Every number he has given us to calculate, he has come in that timing. So it's a matter of getting on his calendar and getting on his program. But that'll come later. Today I want to talk to you about the deeds of the Nicolaitans. So we're going to Revelation to the church of Ephesus right now. And he's talking to the church of Ephesus. And this is, I'm going to go to the Holman. I'm going to go to the Holman translation. So I'm going to get them these. Okay. The one who holds the 7 stars in his right hand and who walks among the 7 gold lampstands says, I know your works, your labor, and your endurance, and that you cannot tolerate evil. You have tested those who call themselves apostles and are not. You have found them to be liars. You also possess endurance and have tolerated many things because of my name and have not grown weary. But I have this against you. You have abandoned the love you had at first. Remember then how far you have fallen. Repent and do the works that you did at first. Otherwise, I will come to you and remove your lampstand from its place unless you repent. Anyone who hears correction, yet you do have this. You hate the practices of the Nicolaitans, which I also hate. King James Version said you hate the deeds of the Nicolaitans. Anyone who has an ear should listen to what the Spirit says to the churches. I will give the victor the right to eat from the tree of life, which is in the paradise of God. Before we get to the Nicolaitans, I want to point out and bring in remembrance to how it was when you first became saved. How you was excited about the word. You was excited about seeing what he was going to do. You were excited about church. You did what you needed to do to build that relationship with God. And then as time went on, time does what it do, and it distracts us from our first love. So regardless if it is the relationship with your creator or the relationship with your spouse or friend, if it has begun to wax cold, do the things that you did when you first met and when you first fell in love. And that will restore just about any relationship that you have. So on to Nicholas and his Nicolaitans. Now, Nicholas is only mentioned one time, and it's in the book of Acts. And he's mentioned in the list of first deacons. He was one of the 7 first deacons of the church. So at that time, he was a pious man. Now it says that Nicholas was a proselyte from Antioch. A proselyte is a convert from a Gentile or a pagan or a heathen nation or people to Judaism. And then after Christ, after the disciples preached the gospel, he was converted to a Christian. But as time do what it does, he fell away as well and became a heretic. And he polluted the teachings of Peter on grace, much like pastors and evangelists and apostles that I know apostles do now with this hyper grace thing. It's nothing new under the sun. The wages of sin is death. So if you don't die, something you believe in God for is going to die. So get your mind right on that hyper grace. You can't do anything that you want to do. This is what happened to the Nicolaitans. They wanted to mix up the pagan rites and rituals that they practiced. Nicholas did not think that he had to do away with his old practices because he was a Christian. So here come this hybrid mingle thing where you bring in pagan practices into Christian practices and calling it Christian. And then it's been handed down from generation to generation. And I know for many of us in the black church, we still practice Christmas and Easter. But as for me, I'm done. That Christmas tree going out on the curb the first time the garbage man run this week. So you have to make up your own decisions. We're coming too close for his return to be riding dirty. If it's anything in your life that needs to be cleaned up, this is the time to clean it up. So, examine yourselves. I examine myself regularly. And I want to be pleasing and acceptable in his sight. I want to be able to stand before him. I am going to escape the troubles of the world that is coming upon on these end times and be able to stand before the Son of Man. So, and if we're going to stand before him as kings and priests, it's a whole lot of stuff we need to clean it up. The next series I'm going to teach on is going to be on kings and priests, the Melchizedek order, which we call the Melchizedek order. And he calls us to be kings and priests. But we're going to have to clean up some stuff. Now, Antioch is where Christians first got the name. That's where they were first called Christians, in Antioch. And it was a huge metropolitan city that's set by a port. Now, anytime you have a city by a port, there are going to be some strongholds you have to deal with, because the water spirits are some of the strongest spirits that you have to break. They're strongholds. And Antioch was no different. Matter of fact, Antioch was the third largest city in Rome and later became the capital of Rome. And some things went down funky in Antioch with the disciples. James, the brother of John, was executed. Peter was in prison around Easter. Herod had, the Christians had vexed Herod's soul, converting the heathens to Christianity, and it threw confusion because you have a whole lot of pagan worship that was going on. And during the time of Passover was the same time that they celebrated Easter. So let me give you a little background on Easter and Christmas. And Christmas is also old or ancient Roman holiday. It's not a holy day. Now, there are 3 feasts that Yahweh Elohim told the Israelites to keep perpetually, that they had to go up to Jerusalem. And they were doing the harvest. That's a clue. And they were doing the harvest. So you had the barley harvest first, the wheat harvest, and then the late summer fruit harvest. So you got 3 harvests. Pre, mid, post. Types and foreshadows. But we'll talk about that later. My God, it's so exciting. But Nimrod is where this practice began. Nimrod was the king of Shinar, Babylon, where the sun worship started. And it was also the place where the first Ziklag, which was a temple that was built by the people of Babylon so they can reach God, reach the heavens. That's when Tower of Babel. But this city of Babylon was a social, political, economic, and religious center of the world. It was literally the one world order. And he set himself up as King God, Sun God. His wife's name was, I might not be pronouncing it right, Simataris. Let's see. I'm going to read from my notes. I don't want to scramble it, so I'm going to read from my notes. When Nimrod died, Nimrod was hewn to pieces. One historian says that it was Shem, the Melchizedek, that hewn him to pieces and strewn his body parts all over the land to let the people know your sun God is dead. He is no God. He's dead. And that's where we get the obelisk from, his disembodied member, the obelisk. We'll talk about that later, which is a high place along with the Asherah poles, all them steeples on top of the churches. Don't even know where you got that from. It's some mess. It's some pagan mess. Let me get back to what one of the historians said that it was Shem. I believe that it was Abraham in the Valley of the Kings when the 5 cities rebelled in 13 years. Shadolamar, the king of Shinar, which was Nimrod, ran with them as well to conquer those other 5 cities. And it was really about Lot. And we'll talk about that next time. I mean, it is really exciting to look at the truth behind. There's always history behind the history. If there's an event that's taken place, you have the seen and unseen purposes, objections for things. So that you always have to look beyond what you see on the surface and get the real truth of what was going on. They want to get a hold of Lot so they could engage Abraham because they wanted to cut off the righteousness in the land. But let me go back over here. Nimrod is dead. So Samaritans said that Nimrod has ascended into heaven and is now the sun god. She becomes pregnant by a beam of light on December 25th. She brings forth a reincarnated husband as her own child and name him Thomas. And we read about that in Ezekiel. We'll go over there. During the winter solstice. Now on the ancient calendar, the summer solstice was on December the 25th. It's on December 21st now, but it was on December the 25th before the Roman Greco calendar. She has a son, named the son Thomas. He grows up 40 years old. He's out hunting. He was a mighty hunter. He's out hunting. He got gorged by a wild boar. Then the mother dies. The mother dies, and the gods, little g, send her back to earth on the vernal equinox, which would be the spring. She's come back in an egg, bursts out of the egg. To show her deity, she takes a bird and turns it to a rabbit. And this is how she is deified. So, now in Ephesus, Diana was real big. This is the same little g deity that is being worshipped. Names have just changed, but it's the same thing. The goddess of fertility. You've seen in ancient digs or in books where they show you Diana or cemeteries. She has a lot of breasts, or a huge breast, or a lot of them. But the goddess of fertility. So Herod, I'm going back now, Herod in Acts was vexed by this Christianity, and he had Peter locked up, and he was going to execute Peter, but it was Easter. So he wanted to wait till after their holiday before he executed Peter. Now, what they would do was take virgins on sunrise, Easter morning. Take virgins on the altar, impregnate them. 12 months later, take the child, sacrifice. The child will be 3 months old, 3-month-old infant. Sacrifice it. Take the blood from the sacrifice and dye the eggs. That's where we get that tradition from. It's enough to make you sick, make your stomach hurt, to think that we have practiced these pagan rites. And you're literally worshiping another God. You think that it's all about Christ and Christianity, and he don't have anything to do with dyed eggs and rabbits. Same thing with the Christmas tree, the poles. He told Israel, when Israel were coming into the promised land, this is Deuteronomy 12:3. He said, "And ye shall overthrow their altars and break their pillars and burn their groves with fire." Groves of trees, pillars. "And you shall hew down their graven images of their gods and destroy the names of them out of the place. Ye shall not do so unto the Lord your God." In other words, you shouldn't worship like the heathens worship and say you doing it unto me. That's what my stomach hurt. That's what we've been doing. That's what we've been doing. And it's enough to make you sick when you think about the things that we've done. Now, I haven't practiced Easter and Christmas in many, many years. But it's a Christmas tree down in that garage going up down that curb soon as the garbage man come this week. And I have repented from those works. And I encourage you to repent from those works. We want to be counted worthy to stand before the Son of Man. We want to escape the troubles that's coming upon the earth in these end times and be counted worthy. We can't with all these pagan practices that we're doing. And some of you are not going to understand or don't want to receive it, and that's okay. But as for me, I will not get an introduction into the Antichrist. So we got to cast off those cords and break those yokes and those strongholds that got us tied to these traditions that has nothing to do with Christianity. And he hated it. Now, right now, I hear some of you saying, well, it's God's permissive will. That's a lie. It is not his permissive will. He clearly states throughout all the scriptures, especially the Old Testament, that he abhors it. Matter of fact, I'm going to go, I want to hit second, if I don't get 2 Peter 2:14 and 15, that explains what happened with the Nicolaitans, how they mixing that stuff up. That's in the New Testament. But let me take you to the Old Testament. Ezekiel chapter 8. I'm going to start at 7. Then he brought me to the entrance of the court. And when I looked, there was a hole in the wall. He said to me, Son of man, dig through the wall. So I dug through the wall, and there was a doorway. He said to me, go in and see the terrible abominations they are committing here. I went in and looked, and there engraved all around the wall was every form of detestable thing, crawling creatures and beasts, as well as the idols of the house of Israel. I'm going on to 12. Then he said to me, Son of man, do you see what the elders of the church of Israel are doing in the darkness, each at the shrine of his idol? For they are saying, the Lord does not see us. The Lord has abandoned the land. Again, he said to me, you will see even greater abominations. He's calling Christmas abomination. Listen to this. Which they are committing. He brought me to the entrance of the north gate of the Lord's house, and I saw women sitting there weeping for Tammuz. And he said to me, do you see this, son of man? You will see even greater abominations. And it goes on. Most of us know that Christ was not born on December 25th. We do know that when Mary and Joseph went to the inn and there was no room at the inn, it was because it was on one of the Lord's holy days, one of his holy feasts, a high holy day. And it's 3 of them that he commanded, a perpetual commandment, that the men of Israel, that mean the heads of families with their family, go to Jerusalem. And it was on Sukkot, Shavuot, and Yom Kippur. So there were 3 holy feasts that they had to keep. And if everybody was headed to Jerusalem, then you know that it was not on Christmas. You're talking Passover, Feast of Weeks, Pentecost, and Feast of Tabernacles. Ain't none of them around Christmas. So I challenge you, stop celebrating Christmas. Stop acknowledging Christmas as his birthday. Stop acknowledging Easter as Passover. Every time I say that, make my stomach hurt. But I'm going to conclude this. I wanted to go to Second Peter, but you can go to Second Peter if you want to. Do your own study. You can accept it or reject it. But we have got to prepare ourselves for the bridegroom. And he is coming for a people, a church. That word iglesia means called out ones. What you called out of? You called out of the traditions of your fathers. The traditions of the world that has nothing to do with Christ. That what we're called out of. So, I'm done. I'm done with Christmas. I'm done with Easter. I'm done. And I have repented. And I beseech you, beloved, that you repent as well. And turn away from those things. And turn your face to the living God. I love you. Peace and blessings. And I will come back and talk to you about the king priest. And how he called us to be priests, kings and priests. And how the order of Melchizedek, what it has to do with you. I love you. May God bless you.